Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 5 of Thessia, our Australia-inspired build. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going to get started with a combo industry build of fishing, generic industry and farming. A really cool build coming up. But I wanted to get started by actually setting up some mock fields using the raw resource tool from extra landscaping tools and a couple of tree lines just to help fill some wide countryside space is the vibe I'm trying to go for here. And we also throw in some appropriate power lines and fencing to really hammer home that rural vibe. And we'll also do a little bit of terrain work here as well to prepare today's build. So please enjoy it, and I will catch you in the live play. To live Thessia, everyone. It's nice to be back in the Australia-inspired city, isn't it? Big thanks for all the support last week. You guys really enjoyed our road network prep, and indeed we had a wonderful name suggestion from the Tea Addict. Well, the name of our, interchange, because it's the banana egg interchange, isn't it, of course? But of course the banana egg interchange, which is a very Australian sounding word, isn't it? So big thanks to the Tea Addict for the name, and indeed all the support across the episode. Today's hyperlapse you've seen, hopefully the fruits of that labour now. I want to start surrounding Valkyrie with some mock, essentially raw resource fields. And what we're just doing there is using the ground resource from extra landscaping tools to paint it out and then use a tree line to set up the field boundary, and from the right angle at the right time of day when there's a full moon every 28 days, you kind of looks like fields from the right perspective, right? So super happy with that. And then we've also brought in some power lines and fencing and a water tower to start hammering home our more rural vibes, so really enjoyed that. And then we also have new community assets to place into the city, just going to find it. A big shout out to Terry Tags in the server, who was made as a flag, and of course has since been renamed to Terry Flags. So absolutely perfect. So Thessia now has a flag, kind of these orange and green chevrons with the purple background and the white star. Super cool. I love that you guys just getting so involved with the community art. It's really cool. Just like Valkyrie Cats and the Crocodile Creek Club. And indeed today's build, the Valkyrie Brewery. So this one here is going to sit by the river, and we're going to be taking some inspiration from Brisbane today, because this is actually a brewery fishing harbour combo industrial area. So some really fun ideas to take from this on Google Earth. But let's build a brewery and fishery in City Skylines, shall we? So you would have seen from today's Google Earth inspiration that today's build is kind of positioned over two different heights and very close next to each other. So it should be a really cool industrial space by the time we've come down toward it. So we are playing with a slight embankment, so I'm going to bring this one down toward here, and then hopefully this one will hold our fishing harbours. So we're going to get those assets placed first so we can just get a sense of positioning and scale for the rest of the build. Now what's actually in the waters of Thessia, pretty much all anchovies, isn't it? Whatever little pockets of salmon are about to be annihilated by the hordes of anchovies occupying the rivers, so looks like we're going with an anchovy harbour instead. So it's kind of cute that you will actually just fit there. So it's not like a major fishing harbour, there's like 2 piers and 3 or 4 boats. And I guess this kind of does come with 2 piers, doesn't it? So I guess that's going to be alright. I think I could maybe possibly afford a 3rd just for the aesthetics of having that wider facility maybe. So let's give that a little rotate and we'll position them around here, and we can use network multi-tool to unlock these as well if we want to. And then we'll use Control and H to set that as the same height. And I should be okay with that, I think. Cool, so let's put these in. So let's make sure we force that down to earth though, which should not be a road. There we go. So I think just because it's a really harsh contrast, isn't it, when the road changes like that. So let's use network multi-tool. We're going to do the unlock function. We're going to delete that road. And then also this one as well. And then we're going to use the feature unlock with no snap in here either because it can mess with it. And then we just want to reinstate that full connection where the asset wants it to go. Make sure there's no irregular heights. And then we will relock the segments. Cool, so that gives me my sort of area to use the fishing harbour in, and of course we'll get much more intricate with these designs as we continue the episode. But what I'm looking to now do is create that boundary as to where my fishing harbour will end. And that seems like it's going to be a good place for me, right? Again, I'm trying to use Google Earth here as a sense of scale, and I think we can get on board with that one. And then it's kind of a... I guess there is a little bit of a retaining wall, but there's not vast amounts of keys and concrete around here. So we'll now push that top layer up. Okay, we'll multi-slope this out as well. And then along the actual quay itself in Brisbane, which is the place we're looking at, I think probably just a regular vanilla quay is actually going to do a perfect job for us. So let's just eye this up and we'll go just follow the angle of the harbours really. And then the quay doesn't really flow much further past that. We're just kind of moving back into what almost looks to be like a little rock wall here, which would be nice because we got some of those water rocks from the workshop that we've been using. So we can definitely use some of those as well. So let's get all this height set and try and sort it out at least a little bit and get some boats flowing. We got some base frames down now, some boats moving around, which is very fancy. They're coming back in just over 100% load. Probably slightly inefficient, but I do like seeing the the whole of boats move around anyway. Cool. So we've got this coming in now. It's not looking too bad, alright. So we've got some frames coming in. So we can see there's definitely some sort of like on-site processing, and I think there's a fantastic opportunity here to actually fuse the fish factory with the fish market because they're two very similar buildings. I think we can get away with them. So let's see what's happening here. So I think if we move this one up to the side, again, frames here can bend to the whim of what I want to happen. So I think the fusing I'm looking for is probably going to be that one there, isn't it? Attaching the two larger warehouses and then their positioning there gives us sort of two larger processing yards, which of course can all be fleshed out with surface painter come the detailing time lapse and expanded vibes, lots of prop detailing to be taken from Google Earth for places like this. Well, it gives us that wider sort of on-site processing, doesn't it? And of course it's all going to function. It's going to be wonderfully well connected. You're probably going to need a road though, aren't you? Which is fine. But we can see we're a little bit kind of too short here, so let's just push everything back a touch. Just grab these two buildings and then position them within our frames so we know where we're going to be safe. That's going to be good. And then with this road to provide connection for the fish market, we can just bring that up. And then service painter all around now. It's been the first time we've ever fused any fishing buildings together. We didn't really, well, we didn't cover it at all in Ilos, of course, because we're in the middle of the desert. We should have a lot of fun with the modded coastline here in Thessia, I think. We hope, anyway. Cool. So there's a general processing area for all the fish people. This is not too bad a start, I don't think. I think I'm going to be happy with that as a general sort of concept and layout for our fishing marina. And there's also a little bit of sort of industry processing a touch further out of the yard, and I think what we can almost use this as an excuse as is to just satisfy a bit of garbage processing. I think a recycling centre with some appropriate garbage themed props and whatnot would do well down here because Thessia or Valkyrie is just about out of garbage processing. Speaking of, I spelled the name of the bloody town wrong. I changed this in the first episode thinking that I got it right. The snot is wrong. That is how you spell Valkyrie. Thankfully. Wonderful. Thank you for letting me know. Cool, but as a general position of assets and start of an industrial area, I'm going to be happy with our fishing harbour now. Let's jump up to this next tier and have a little look at what the brewery is going to look like. So let's move the conversation towards getting pissed. So we want to have a couple of red brick buildings up here, kind of quite a distinctive, almost quintessential style of a brewery, isn't it? Kind of older buildings, smokestacks. Well, although are you really kind of calling them smokestacks? I guess they're not really producing smoke, are they, in a brewery? I'm not entirely sure. But either way, I want to get started out with a little bit of sort of office admin. So I think we'll have a car park up against here. Let's go for a touch of car parking here, and we'll have a bit more knocking around the facility as well. I think a bit of office zoning here would be welcome. I think something like that should be okay. I'm going to be pretty happy with that. So I also want to use a factory in here as well, which we don't actually have the means to supply at the minute because we're not producing animal products, crops or flour because we don't have a farm, but one day we will. But I definitely want to see if we can start fusing some of our sort of other brewery themed buildings onto the side of the actual bakery asset itself, because I think it has a brewery vibe if you sort of ignore the donut sign on the front. You'll have to look past that, I guess. But in the wonderful world of generic industry, there is quite a few assets that are going to suit our need today, and we're also going to use a warehouse also. So yeah, a lot of this sort of stuff. This one's a great corner asset. We can piece this one together to make a larger building. Yeah. All these are going to be wonderful. So we'll just place them down and then we can pick and choose exactly what we want to make our brewery out of. Okay, cool. So let's factor in the most important asset of the build, which is going to be the warehouse. I think again I want to use probably a medium. I think a large is too much for a town like Valkyrie, isn't it? So let's go for a medium. And we'll actually end up telling this to store either raw materials for the generic industry or the materials that will be eventually produced by the bakery, or well, unique factory products anyway. So we'll bring this up and around, okay, so a bit of connection of course, and then really want to use that now as a something of a boundary for the rest of the brewery to start taking place in. So I'm sticking really close towards my reference point in Google Earth when we're building things like this. So let's bring in probably the most prominent smokestack, which is going to be this one, isn't it? Okay, and then we'll have this up against here. And what I do want to do between the buildings is leave kind of a few alleyways where trucks or deliveries might come down, personnel can walk in between, etc. So we'll try and respect that where we can. And then we'll get this corner asset here. And we'll bring this up onto that corner. Now I'm guessing your spawn point is on the right hand side there, isn't it? Yes it is. So if we are going to have a few of these, we'll have to make sure that we do indeed spawn point them so they don't lose out on their services. And then we've got two of them. We'll copy and paste. And then we'll make that 4 unit out there. Okay, and then I love it if that kind of smokestack almost looks like it's on the side of that building, so it's a continual unit rather than a separate building, is what I'm trying to achieve here. From a general sort of brewery vibe. I think it goes really nicely next door to that bakery as well, doesn't it? Which is really fun. Cool, okay. So this asset here, the Jubilee one, kind of looks like it's got a bit of delivery function at the back, doesn't it? Something we can definitely extend out of that. So let's go ahead and grab that. And then again, I'm looking to maintain. I'll do all the building spawn points at the end, because it's going to be pretty boring to watch on camera. So let's just go ahead and service paint the whole thing up. Decals around this as well will age up a little bit, which we'll do. Okay. So again, I think we can just extend the fence out the back of that and make it look like it's some sort of delivery point. Might not be the worst thing ever, I don't think. And then we do have another smokestack here as well. So let's go ahead and bring this one over now too. And could we possibly piece this one onto the back of the other one again, so it's kind of continuing that larger unit. I don't mind losing a couple of dumpster props off the back there. It's absolutely fine. Okay, and can we just slot that in? Is that going to be okay? Oh, there we go, he's actually driving across the concrete, which is handy, isn't it? Wasn't expecting him to do that, but we want to change that anyway, we will. Okay, so definitely don't mind the aesthetics of the two stacks next to each other, I don't think. Sort of the larger brewery area, if you like. And I think definitely some sort of smaller outhouse looking buildings, perhaps over this side of the facility, would go down quite nicely. And again, we'll double some of these up so we get that larger pattern coming in. Now I guess some sort of assets that have a VAT on them would be helpful, so we could either go for these ones here, or there's the other generic industry we used a couple of episodes ago, isn't there, that has the tanks on the side of it. There's a couple of them actually. Although, is there any major difference between you two? No, I wonder why you're listed as two separate factory assets. Oh, one's 3x4, one's 4x4, that'd be why. So I think I prefer the one with the logo on the front, like box of beer, square packages. I think we'll go for that one then. And then why don't we use this one also as an excuse to see if we can just bring in more of those VAT features, I guess. So we'll move that one back there, and then we'll have this one. Now chill out at this point, we can line it up with any fencing that we see and we're happy with. I think maybe we can actually spin this one around so it kind of opens up its side towards the back of these ones here, which might make a little more sense for us, right? We can have the front entry against the road there. Very cool. So I think it also would be actually nice to see the texture of industrial road flowing through here, which I think is something we're going to try and sort of replicate, but we're going to do no snap in here, and then let's have that one go there. Bring that one through, and then we'll just adjust the angle of the node. And then I want to go through with node controller, and then essentially on every segment, I want to actually stretch it down to 50%. We'll also do the same here again as well. For the blue node, only here this time though, let's go for 50% there. And then we'll also do 50%. There is a 1 unit industrial road on the workshop if you really want to do it. Go ahead and get the other asset, but otherwise you can pretty much do the same thing, just with a bit of node controller as well. And then we can use this now to give access points to the various little bits of industry that need that service. So you guys are okay, you need to come over here. Same with all these boys too. Your spawn point is under the building. Let's see if we can move you over to that one. And then everyone should be pretty much happy here now with being serviced. Yeah, all these guys are okay. It's really important we check this, otherwise the industry won't function. Trucks will never be able to make their destination. And everyone over here is fine as well. Cool. So I don't hate it. I definitely want to bring that industrial road around the back of the warehouse as well. So let's do that on angle and road length. We can have this come down and up and connect in. Everyone's happy. Adjust nodes where needed. So you right now will store unique factory products for right now, but that won't be stored for a little while. Again, we are already importing crops, aren't we, because we have the farm silos over here. Just a case of that we need animal products and flour. Now I'm thinking about it, would adding some of those assets into the brewery actually be the most horrific thing? Like, does a cattle shed really look like a cattle shed? And I think the flour mill certainly has a place around here as well, doesn't it? Let's explore this idea together. Let's go ahead and shut down the farm main building. I guess within the farms we did at the hyperlapse today would be a good start. So we'll have that go over there. Let's paint this industry area out a little bit so we can experiment with this. Cool, so you can go away, and you can all go away now. Don't need you anymore. So let's have a little look. So there's the milking parlour, which really looks like it belongs on a farm, but I think the cattle shed, with a bit of bobbing, that definitely belongs in a brewery build, doesn't it? We can get away with that. So some tanks in the back, maybe holding beer or water, etc. Something for it. Or if anything, we could also pop it down toward near our little recycling centre over this way, which I think we will do. We'll go ahead and chuck this on a dirt road now we know where we're hanging out. You can come up here and up here. And then to extend that farm area down, we will also name. And the milking parlour is going to come down here. Or cattle shed, this isn't it? Which one is this? Cattle shed, yeah. So he will be given crops because we are actually importing crops via the trains, and the grain silo is storing them here. Hence why the factory is receiving crops. So that will arrange animal products for us. And then the next one we need to look at is the flour mill, which is the only way of producing flour. But again, is it an asset that really looks like it doesn't belong in a brewery? I don't think it is. It's got more of those vats and silos on it, which is really sort of a key aesthetic of the build for me at least. So why don't we position this up against our road, because we're going to have quite a fun little sight line down here, I think. And let's bring our Valkyrie bit of sign a bit more prominent now, probably against this angle is the most appropriate, isn't it? Line up with the street post there. We'll have some fencing around the whole facility as well in a second. We are getting some worker demands, which is fine. Do we have any space to expand residential in Valkyrie anymore? Very little, although I don't think some little, actually like a little collection of our boomer units wouldn't be the worst thing, just kind of sparsely littered, heading out of town. Yeah, kind of some cute little small houses as we're heading out of town here should satisfy some bit of our demand for us. We'll give them a forest line as well so they don't just sit there on their own. But that isn't too bad, I don't think. I think I'm definitely on board with the inclusion of the flour mill within the brewery build. It's just about deciding its position and orientation now. Again, it's all about the sightlines. We really want to make sure we're kind of hammering home that brewery vibe as we sit from other areas of the city here. I'm getting a bit of traffic here, aren't we? Just the AI being stupid, need a bit more traffic manager help maybe. Just tell you to go through and not be idiots here. There you go. That sorts it out, doesn't it? Well, I think I am enjoying all sightlines now. We're certainly replicating what we're seeing in Brisbane, but there is a ton of prop detailing to do here, like an absolute ton of it. So that is the factory actually working now. It's being supplied by everything it needs, so we can actually have the functioning factory as part of today's build, but this does kind of seem like a fun little shell. It's not too hard to build today. I want to come in now, use node controller, stretch out some of our nodes, do a lot of fun around here. A little bit of intersection marking tool is welcome here as well, of course, as we actually enter the main industrial facility. Bring the forest line back in, lots of decals and props around kind of the core of the brewery here, and then help blend in our new residentials on the very edge of Valkyrie as people drive in to actually see the brewery, which is really cool. We'll probably get some more Valkyrie bitter signage out here as well. But fun little industrial build today, nice combination of fishing and generic industry, plus a factory and a bit of farming. Certainly something we never tried before, but let's get it detailed and we'll see what we think on the end. Alright guys, let's have a detailing review, shall we? So this has turned into a wonderful combo industry area of farming, generic industry and fishing. One of my favourites, possibly. We'll start down here by the path that links people to the other side of the railroad, brought in some chain link fencing, and also reduced the size of the car park over here, which is actually getting very little use, but whatever, at least it's a car park. Expanded some of the vanilla prop patterns that we found around the fish market, and also brought in some green cities ones as well, just to help function as a bit of fish market spice, I guess is the term here. Dropped in some parking and some bollards and some crates and general props along the waterfront. Again, looking at Google Earth for what exactly fills these spaces is super cute. And I did stumble across a little bit of parking. We come around to the side of the fish market where I finally found an excuse to use Avanya's wonderful cargo container warehouses. So these are actually warehouses that are going to be storing the products needed, animal products and flour, that the bakery is using on the top of the hill there. So happy to have these in. A few more props, and then the cattle shed has settled in really nicely next door to the recycling centre, just as part of some outer lying sort of industrial admin, I guess. And it sits really cutely against the waterfront. I'm a huge fan of the view that we've generated here, just the different layers and the stacks, and just super cool we've really hit home the vibes that we were looking at in Brisbane. And then as we come up the hill, we arrive at a bit of rock detailing where the car park now wraps around our office, and you'll notice this super cool thing. So the intersection marking tool now has an option to apply a decal to as a filler, essentially. And I thought it'd be cool to use one of the cobblestone decals that we've got, like an old cobbled road, up to the brewery that they've left in as the sort of industrialization has taken place around it. And I think it's pretty cool. I don't hate it. So let me know what you think of the cobble road heading up to the entrance to the brewery. At least did drop in the Valkyrie Bitter sign with Prop Anarchy. But we're finally getting a bit of rain in Thessia as well. Yeah, just to hide the donut sign. And then actually dragged in a wine and liquor store into the side of it. So it's kind of like you can do a tour of the brewery. So you kind of arrive here. There's parking behind it as well. Sort of register, and then you go in the front door and then leave out the gift shop once you've finished the tour, is the vibe I'm going for there. So that's okay. I also dropped in some benches and general trees and bins for workers to enjoy a spot of lunch if they're indeed working at the brewery. Ended up sinking down one of Avanya's garbage processing buildings, so this is just a recycling drop-off centre. And there was kind of like a recessed bit in the brewery in Brisbane, so I wanted to try and replicate that with a bit of sunken keys, and also node controlled them so they were a little bit thinner as well. But it does kind of serve as a little bit of garbage processing for the brewery itself, I guess, ever so slightly recessed into the ground, which is nice. They arrive at some more generic industry with some props. I really wanted to find an excuse to use these barrel assets from the base game, and I thought maybe we could combine it with a forestry building that has all these panels exposed on the side, and this is where they're actually making the barrels for the beer. And then they've also got lots of spare resources around the back here as well, should they want to get involved in that, as Professor X, is it, or Magneto drives around over there. Yeah, so kind of happy with that. I'm not entirely sure they make the barrels on the site of the brewery, but maybe they do in Thessia, right? We can always pretend. And then our rural theme has really come in now as we're moving back out of Thessia into the Thessian countryside, or back out of Valkyrie, I should say, with water towers, power lines, and farm fencing, which is really handy. And then we've got that same vibe continuing up against the brewery here, and this suburb has such a great sightline for it, just like really nice. I love the view into the industrial yard from here. Just as happy as the one that we generated over here as well. I'm really enjoying Valkyrie's industrial sightlines, to say the least, I think. And then as we cross back over, our warehouse is now filled up with those factory goods, which is fantastic, so we can keep all the commercial stocked with this stuff, which is nice. So nice to see the industry balance actually balanced, not like it was in Ilos, not at all. And then lots of prop detailing, trucks, well, forklift trucks, crates and shipping containers in and around the back of the brewery, for obvious reasons, and just extending those industrial fence lines out wherever we find them. A couple of trucks here dropping some things off near the vats, and then spare trailers, and indeed a green truck for, of course, Valkyrie Bitter leaving the yard. It'd be really cool if we could get some Valkyrie Bitter trailers, wouldn't it? Maybe one of the community can piece that together, but again, just an extension of all that industrial fencing around the back of the bakery. And the flour mill sits in absolutely wonderfully next door to all of this, and it's a really cute collection of industrial assets. Possibly this area right here might be one of my favourite industrial areas that we've ever done on the channel. The combination of farming, technically a single forestry building, a couple of props, generic industry, all fused together to create kind of a brewery vibe has really come together. And then we've also got our Find Your Inner Viking on the corner here. And then with this IMT here is actually taken from the road entrance and exit in Brisbane, so we can just get a little sort of stripe filler with a couple of dotted lines and a solid line as you do peel off down towards the fishery, should you need to get down there. And the whole area has just become this really cute industrial complex to sit alongside the riverbank for Valkyrie. Really happy with it. And then of course, long awaited, we have now been through town and placed in some Aussie pubs, which is really cool. We got this one up on the corner, the Grey Starling Hotel, and then one across the street in this little white number over here as well. So it's cool to see people coming and going from these businesses now, enjoying Valkyrie Bitter. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today. Let's thank you all so much for watching. Likes, comments, and shares below go a long way if you have enjoyed yourself at any point during today's episode. As much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave me a dislike as well. Super happy with this, and it kind of brings Valkyrie to a close, if not just a little bit of hyperlapse work probably needed at the start of next episode. But next time out, we will, I think, go ahead and start the surface town. I'm really keen to get alongside a beach in Thessia, so it should be quite a lot of fun. Otherwise, please enjoy your vast Valkyrie cinematics, but I will shut up and leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.